Imagine a world where the money in your wallet wasn't always considered money. Centuries ago, people used shells, beads, and metal as currency, trusting symbols over paper. Money wasn't just wealth, it was trust, power, and control. Hidden forces shaped it to influence entire civilizations. What if everything you learned about money was carefully designed to keep you in the dark? Ancient societies depended on trust to make money work. Kings, merchants, and traders all agreed on what had value, from gold coins to grain. Every transaction was a silent agreement, a promise that this object represented real wealth. Without trust, a coin was just metal, meaningless in the hands of someone who didn't believe in it. This invisible agreement allowed economies to grow in ways we rarely think about today. As time passed, banking systems emerged to store and lend money. Early bankers were the gatekeepers of trust, keeping gold safe and issuing promissory notes. People began to accept these notes as money because they trusted the institution behind them. This was the first step toward modern currency, where paper represented something far more valuable than itself. It was a subtle shift, invisible to most, but monumental in shaping financial history. Eventually, governments stepped in, backing money with gold reserves. This created a sense of stability and trust that allowed nations to expand trade and finance. Coins and notes became symbols of authority, not just tools for exchange. Yet, behind the scenes, powerful elites began influencing who had access to this wealth. This was the beginning of hidden control within financial systems. The gold standard dominated for centuries, linking currency to real physical assets. But it wasn't foolproof. Wars, debts, and greed often tested its limits. When nations borrowed more than they held, crises emerged, exposing cracks in the system. Yet the world continued to trust money because it had learned to believe in symbols over substance. The first major break came when governments began issuing paper money not fully backed by gold. Suddenly, money became more abstract, a promise rather than a tangible asset. People had to trust institutions, and that trust was fragile. This abstract shift allowed economies to expand rapidly, but also introduced unprecedented risk. It was a turning point few noticed at the time. Banks discovered they could lend more money than they physically held in gold. This practice, called fractional reserve banking, multiplied the money supply. A single deposit could create multiple loans, fueling economic growth but also creating systemic vulnerability. When confidence faltered, the consequences could be catastrophic. This invisible mechanism remains at the core of modern finance today. By the 20th century, most currencies became fiat, backed by trust alone. Governments could print money at will, steering economies and influencing societies. Inflation, debt, and crises became tools for control rather than accidents. Citizens rarely understood these invisible levers, making them dependent on systems they barely saw. Money had evolved into both power and subtle manipulation. Digital currencies and global finance now move faster than ever before. Trillions change hands in seconds, often invisible to the average person. Algorithms and central banks subtly influence markets, interest rates, and credit availability. Money is no longer just physical, it's digital, abstract, and controlled by a few powerful entities. Understanding this hidden system is crucial for anyone living in the modern world. So, the next time you hold a coin, a note, or swipe a card, remember this: money is more than currency. It carries centuries of secrets, manipulation, and power structures shaping your life. History shows that trust, control, and hidden agendas have always guided financial systems. Knowing the story of money is not just education, it's understanding power. Ask yourself, do you control your money, or does it control you? Trust in banks seemed unshakable, but cracks were forming beneath the surface. Loans multiplied, mortgages bundled, and unseen derivatives grew in complexity. Most people never understood how these financial instruments worked. Wealth concentrated at the top while ordinary citizens carried hidden risks. The stage was set for a crisis that would shake the world. The 2008 financial collapse revealed the fragility of the entire system. Banks had lent far more than they held, and complex financial instruments became toxic. Confidence evaporated overnight, and panic spread across markets globally. Millions lost jobs, homes, and savings in a matter of months. Governments intervened, but the scars of mismanagement lingered for years. Yet even as chaos struck, the lessons remained hidden from most. Central banks created bailouts, printing money to stabilize economies. Ordinary citizens bore the brunt, while elite financiers profited from the collapse. This invisible system of power and control became even more entrenched. Understanding its mechanics is key to navigating modern finance. Inflation quietly reshaped wealth and power after the crisis. Prices rose, purchasing power declined, and savings eroded slowly over time. Few realized how subtle manipulation could change lifestyles and entire economies. This invisible force rewarded some while punishing the majority. Money had become not just a medium of exchange, but a tool of control. Digital transactions transformed money again, making it faster, intangible, and largely invisible. The credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies reshaped trust into code and systems. Most people interact with money without seeing the real infrastructure behind it. Powerful algorithms now influence spending, lending, and markets. The human element of trust shifted to the digital realm. Global networks of finance grew in secrecy and complexity. Offshore accounts, shell corporations, and hedge funds moved wealth across borders. The rules of money became invisible to ordinary citizens, yet determined life outcomes. Control shifted from governments to financial elites with unmatched influence. Understanding these hidden structures is essential to grasp modern economics. Even governments became players in this invisible game. Interest rates, monetary policy, and debt issuance were tools to steer populations. Citizens rarely noticed, yet their lives were shaped by these decisions. Every policy carried winners and losers, often designed to protect the powerful. Money had become a subtle mechanism of influence. History shows this pattern repeats again and again. Crises, collapses, and booms are often orchestrated or predicted by those who understand the system. Ordinary people witness the effects without knowing the causes. By tracing money's hidden history, patterns emerge that explain inequality and concentration of wealth. Knowledge becomes power in a system designed to obscure it. The invisible history of money is not just about numbers, it's about control. Every coin, note, and digital transaction carries the imprint of centuries of decisions. Those who understand this history gain insight into economic power and influence. Yet most remain unaware, following rules they didn't make. This makes learning the history of money essential for survival in the modern world. So, next time you spend, save, or invest, remember the hidden story behind your money. Trust, control, and power flow through every financial system. Understanding its history helps you navigate the invisible forces shaping your life. Money is not neutral. It's an instrument wielded by those who understand it. Ask yourself, do you control your money, or does it control you? Throughout history, financial crises have often been ignored until it's too late. Bankers and elites see the risks long before the public does, yet warnings go unheard. The consequences fall on ordinary citizens who face unemployment, inflation, and lost savings. Money becomes a silent weapon of control. Understanding the patterns helps us prepare for the next shock. Money's evolution shows a constant tension between innovation and control. Each new system, gold, paper, digital, expanded wealth but also created hidden risks. Powerful institutions exploit these risks for profit, often unseen. Ordinary citizens adapt blindly, trusting the system to protect them. This invisible tug-of-war shapes economies and lives. Even today, hidden financial networks manipulate markets silently. Hedge funds, central banks, and multinational corporations move trillions without public scrutiny. Algorithms now influence who gets loans, mortgages, and investments. The average person sees only the surface, unaware of the invisible currents beneath. Money is both a tool and a veil, shaping power structures unseen. Trust remains the foundation of all money, yet it is fragile. One misstep, a bank failure, a policy change, or sudden market crash, can shatter confidence overnight. History teaches that when trust collapses, society feels the impact immediately. Those who understand the mechanisms gain foresight, while others suffer. Money is as much psychology as it is economics. Global debt continues to grow at unprecedented rates, quietly shaping every nation. Governments borrow trillions, creating obligations that future generations must bear. This invisible pressure influences taxes, policies, and economic freedom. Citizens often don't realize how much their daily lives are determined by these decisions. Money is a chain as much as it is a tool. Inflation subtly erodes wealth, redistributing power without overforce. Prices rise, savings lose value, and purchasing power declines. Most people experience it without understanding why. Meanwhile, the wealthy and powerful often benefit from inflation by leveraging assets. Money quietly shifts from the many to the few. Digital banking and cryptocurrencies add layers of abstraction to money. Transactions are instantaneous, often invisible, and controlled by algorithms few understand. This transforms trust into code, yet the human cost remains. Financial systems have evolved faster than society can adapt. Understanding these invisible networks is essential for survival. Even the way we earn, spend, and invest is influenced by invisible forces. Interest rates, digital platforms, and credit scoring quietly dictate opportunities. Most decisions appear personal, yet they are guided by algorithms and policies. Money has become a web of control, shaping society in subtle ways. Knowledge of this web is power. Throughout history, those who mastered the flow of money gained extraordinary influence. Kings, bankers, and modern financiers alike used hidden mechanisms to consolidate power. Ordinary citizens often witnessed consequences without understanding the causes. Learning money's history reveals these patterns, showing how wealth and control intertwine. Awareness becomes a shield in a world dominated by unseen forces. Money is never neutral. Every transaction, every system carries centuries of secrets and power structures. To navigate modern life effectively, understanding the hidden history of money is essential. Knowledge allows you to make informed decisions, avoiding traps set by those who control the system. So ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? From ancient coins to digital currency, money has always been shaped by invisible forces. Power, trust, and influence flow through every system, often unseen. Ordinary people experience only the surface effects, while elites guide the currents behind the scenes. History repeats itself in cycles of boom and bust. Understanding these patterns is key to financial awareness. Banks and governments have long controlled the supply of money. Through loans, interest rates, and policy, they shape economies subtly yet profoundly. Most citizens never notice how these levers influence their lives. Yet, these invisible mechanisms determine who prospers and who struggles. Money has always been more than currency. It's a tool of power. Debt has been a constant companion throughout financial history. Governments, businesses, and individuals borrow, creating obligations that ripple through society. At times, this fosters growth, but at others, it triggers crises. The invisible nature of debt hides its power, yet its effects are felt by everyone. Learning how debt shapes society is essential to understanding money. Inflation quietly redistributes wealth over time, favoring those who understand it. Prices rise, purchasing power declines, and the average person often loses without realizing why. Meanwhile, elites leverage assets and financial instruments to grow their wealth. This invisible game has been played for centuries. Knowledge of it can protect and empower ordinary citizens. Digitalization has transformed money yet again. Banking apps, online transfers, and cryptocurrencies operate faster than the human eye can follow. Most people interact with money without understanding the underlying systems. Algorithms and networks quietly dictate opportunities, risks, and outcomes. Money is now both digital and deeply controlled. Even modern financial crises often remain invisible until they explode. Complex derivatives, leveraged loans, and opaque markets hide risk from the public. When confidence collapses, the effects are sudden and severe. Ordinary people bear the brunt while insiders profit from chaos. This hidden history repeats itself across generations. Powerful networks of banks and corporations now shape global finance. Wealth flows across borders, influenced by offshore accounts and shell companies. Ordinary citizens often experience only the consequences, without seeing the cause. Invisible systems dictate opportunities, credit, and access to capital. Money is both tool and weapon in these hands. The human element of trust has shifted into code and algorithms. Digital finance depends on systems most cannot see, yet interact with every day. Decisions that impact lives are made by invisible software and policies. The balance of power has moved from human institutions to coded systems. Understanding this transition is critical for anyone navigating modern money. History reveals recurring patterns: expansion, crisis, recovery, and consolidation of power. Elites understand these cycles and leverage them to maintain influence. Ordinary citizens witness only outcomes without understanding the forces behind them. Learning money's hidden history illuminates these cycles. Awareness is a shield against unseen manipulation. So, as you earn, spend, or invest, remember that money carries centuries of secrets. Trust, control, and power flow invisibly through every system. Ordinary citizens must understand history to navigate these forces effectively. Knowledge of money's evolution gives foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? Throughout history, crises have often been invisible until it's too late. Bank failures, market crashes, and debt collapses build quietly, unnoticed by ordinary citizens. Elites anticipate these events and often profit while others suffer. Understanding these patterns is essential for anyone who wants financial foresight. Money is as much about timing as it is about wealth. The concentration of wealth has always been hidden yet extreme. A small elite controls disproportionate resources, influencing policies and markets. Most people experience only the outcomes without seeing the cause. Money is not neutral. It carries embedded power structures. Learning this history shows who truly holds control. Interest rates are one of the most subtle yet powerful tools in finance. Central banks can encourage borrowing, discourage saving, or steer entire economies with a single decision. Most citizens never see the full impact, yet their lives are shaped daily. Money is not just earned, it is manipulated. Understanding these levers reveals the hidden architecture of wealth. Debt has been both a tool and a trap across civilizations. Governments, businesses, and individuals borrow to grow, but obligations can accumulate faster than repayment. The invisible weight of debt shapes societies silently. Ordinary citizens bear the consequences, while institutions often benefit. Recognizing this pattern is key to financial literacy. Inflation quietly redistributes wealth without dramatic headlines. Prices rise, savings lose value, and the purchasing power of ordinary people declines. Meanwhile, the wealthy leverage assets and investments to grow their wealth. This hidden transfer of resources has repeated for centuries. Money is a silent conveyor of power. Digital finance now dominates our daily lives. Credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies move money faster than we can comprehend. Most interactions with money are invisible, controlled by algorithms and policies few understand. The human element of trust has shifted into code. Understanding these systems is crucial in modern life. Financial networks span the globe, often hidden from public view. Offshore accounts, shell companies, and hedge funds move trillions silently. The rules appear opaque, yet outcomes affect daily life for millions. Knowledge of these invisible networks is power. Ordinary citizens must learn the patterns to navigate safely. History teaches that the cycles of boom and bust are often engineered or predicted by insiders. Ordinary citizens only witness the effects without understanding the causes. Wealth, power, and influence consolidate at the top during each cycle. Learning these patterns reveals the hidden rules of money. Awareness is protection. The invisible architecture of finance controls who thrives and who struggles. Interest rates, credit access, and policy decisions shape opportunities for millions daily. Money is not neutral. It carries centuries of embedded power. Understanding history illuminates these mechanisms. Knowledge allows ordinary people to make informed decisions. So as you earn, spend, and invest, remember, money is never just currency. It carries hidden stories, centuries of manipulation, and complex power structures. Ordinary citizens often experience only outcomes, while elites guide the system. Learning its history gives foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? Throughout history, money has been shaped by both innovation and control. Each new system, from gold coins to digital currencies, expanded wealth but also created hidden risks. Ordinary citizens often experience only the surface effects, unaware of the underlying mechanisms. Those who understand the hidden patterns gain foresight and power. Money has always been a tool of influence. Banks have long been central players in this story. By controlling deposits, loans, and credit, they guide the flow of money across society. Most people interact with them without seeing how deeply they influence economies. Behind the scenes, decisions made by a few shape opportunities for millions. Money is as much about control as it is about exchange. Debt is a powerful and often invisible force. Governments, businesses, and individuals borrow, creating obligations that ripple through society. It can fuel growth, but it can also trigger crises when mismanaged. Ordinary people feel the consequences, while institutions benefit. Understanding debt is essential to understanding money. Inflation quietly shifts wealth over time, often unnoticed by the public. Prices rise, purchasing power declines, and savings erode slowly. The wealthy can use this to their advantage, leveraging assets to maintain or increase influence. Ordinary citizens often bear the hidden cost. This invisible process repeats throughout history. The digital era has transformed money again. Online banking, credit cards, and cryptocurrencies make transactions faster and more invisible than ever. Most people interact with money without understanding its infrastructure. Algorithms now influence who gets access to credit and opportunity. Trust has shifted from humans to systems. Global financial networks have grown in secrecy and complexity. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and multinational corporations move trillions invisibly. Ordinary citizens feel only the consequences, while elites profit and consolidate power. Money now flows according to invisible rules few understand. Awareness is the key to navigating this landscape. History repeats in cycles of expansion, collapse, and consolidation of power. Those who understand these patterns exploit them, while ordinary citizens often suffer. Money is not neutral. It is both a tool and a weapon. Studying its history reveals these cycles and the hidden rules behind wealth. Knowledge becomes protection. Even today, interest rates, policies, and digital banking shape daily lives invisibly. Decisions made by institutions affect loans, mortgages, and investments for millions. Most people see only the results, not the mechanisms. Money is a silent force influencing choices and opportunities. Understanding this is essential for financial literacy. The concentration of wealth is not a new phenomenon. Throughout history, a small elite has controlled disproportionate resources and influence. Most citizens only experience outcomes without understanding the cause. Money carries centuries of embedded power structures. Learning its hidden history is the key to awareness. So, as you earn, spend, or invest, remember this. Money is never just currency. It carries hidden stories, manipulation, and power structures shaping lives. Ordinary citizens often witness only consequences while elites control the system. Learning this history gives foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? Throughout history, money has been a mirror of society's values and power structures. From gold coins to digital ledgers, each form reflects trust, control, and influence. Ordinary people often see only the surface, unaware of the forces shaping their lives. Those who understand money's history gain insight into wealth and power. Knowledge is the first step toward control. Banks and financial institutions have always wielded hidden influence. By controlling deposits, loans, and credit flows, they shape entire economies. Most people interact with money without seeing this influence, trusting the system blindly. Those in power profit while the public faces risk. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for financial literacy. Debt has been a tool for growth, but also a trap for centuries. Borrowing drives economies, but excessive obligations create vulnerabilities. Ordinary people often bear the consequences, while institutions profit. Invisible chains of debt dictate opportunities and outcomes. Recognizing these patterns is crucial to navigating finance. Inflation silently redistributes wealth, often without public awareness. Prices rise, savings lose value, and purchasing power declines. Those with knowledge and assets can leverage inflation to their advantage. Ordinary citizens are often left behind. Understanding this invisible force is key to protecting financial well-being. Digital finance has made money faster, intangible, and largely invisible. Credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies operate beyond everyday perception. Algorithms now guide opportunities, loans, and investments, subtly controlling outcomes. Most people experience only the effects, not the causes. Understanding these systems is crucial in the modern world. Global financial networks operate with remarkable secrecy. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and multinational corporations move trillions invisibly. The average citizen sees only the results, while the elite consolidate power. Money flows according to rules that are largely hidden from the public. Knowledge of these networks is a form of protection. Cycles of boom and bust have repeated for centuries, often engineered or anticipated by insiders. Ordinary citizens witness the impact but rarely understand the cause. Wealth and influence consolidate at the top with each cycle. Learning money's hidden history reveals the patterns behind these events. Awareness becomes a shield against unseen manipulation. Interest rates, policies, and digital systems shape daily life invisibly. Decisions made by institutions influence loans, mortgages, and investments for millions. Most people notice only the outcomes, not the mechanisms. Money silently guides opportunities, shaping society in subtle ways. Understanding this is essential for financial literacy. Wealth concentration is a historical constant. A small elite controls vast resources, influencing markets and policies. Ordinary citizens feel the consequences without seeing the causes. Money carries embedded power structures shaped over centuries. Learning this hidden history illuminates the forces that govern our world. As you earn, spend, or invest, remember, money is never just currency. It carries stories of manipulation, control, and centuries of hidden power. Ordinary people often experience only outcomes while elites guide the system. Knowledge of its history gives foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? The story of money is the story of power. Every coin, note, and digital transaction reflects centuries of control, trust, and influence. Most people experience only the effects, never the causes. Those who understand the hidden patterns gain foresight and leverage. Knowledge transforms money from a tool into empowerment. Banks and institutions quietly shape the economy through credit and policy. The decisions made by a few dictate opportunities for millions. Most citizens never see the mechanisms at work, trusting the system blindly. Those in control often profit while others bear the consequences. Money has always been a tool of influence. Debt is one of the most powerful forces in finance. It can fuel growth or create chains that trap generations. Ordinary people often feel its consequences without understanding the cause. Institutions use debt strategically to consolidate power. Understanding this invisible mechanism is key to financial awareness. Inflation silently redistributes wealth, often unnoticed. Prices rise, savings lose value, and purchasing power declines slowly. The wealthy can leverage assets to grow influence while ordinary people are disadvantaged. This quiet transfer has repeated for centuries. Money is more than currency. It's a mechanism of power. Digital finance has made money faster and largely invisible. Credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies operate beyond immediate perception. Algorithms guide access to credit, loans, and investment opportunities. Ordinary people see only the results, not the hidden systems. Understanding these digital networks is crucial today. Global financial networks are complex and often opaque. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and corporations move trillions invisibly. Ordinary citizens feel only the outcomes, while elites consolidate power. Money flows according to rules few understand. Knowledge of these systems is protection in a world of hidden influence. Cycles of boom and bust repeat throughout history. Insiders often predict or engineer these cycles, while ordinary people bear the consequences. Wealth consolidates at the top during each phase. Studying history reveals the patterns behind these cycles. Awareness provides foresight and safeguards against manipulation. Interest rates, policies, and digital systems silently guide daily financial decisions. Loans, mortgages, and investments for millions are influenced by choices most never see. Money is a silent force shaping opportunities and society. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for informed decision-making. Knowledge is empowerment. Wealth concentration has been a constant across centuries. A small elite controls vast resources, influencing markets, policies, and society. Ordinary citizens see only outcomes without understanding the causes. Money carries hidden power structures. Learning this history illuminates the forces shaping our world. As you earn, spend, or invest, remember, money is never just currency. It carries manipulation, control, and centuries of hidden power. Ordinary people often witness only outcomes while elites guide the system. Understanding its history gives foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? Money has always been more than a medium of exchange. It reflects trust, power, and centuries of hidden control. Ordinary citizens often experience only outcomes, not the mechanisms behind them. Those who understand these systems gain insight into wealth and influence. Knowledge transforms money into a tool, rather than a trap. Banks and institutions quietly shape societies through credit, loans, and financial policies. Most people interact with money without seeing these levers at work. Decisions made by a few can influence opportunities for millions. Those in power often profit while the public bears the risk. Money has always been a tool of influence and control. Debt has been both a tool and a trap across civilizations. Borrowing drives economies, but excessive obligations create vulnerabilities. Ordinary people feel its effects without understanding the underlying mechanisms. Institutions often exploit debt strategically for profit. Understanding this invisible force is essential for financial awareness. Inflation quietly redistributes wealth over time, often unnoticed. Prices rise, purchasing power decreases, and ordinary citizens lose value without realizing it. Meanwhile, the wealthy leverage assets to maintain and grow influence. This process has repeated for centuries. Money is not neutral, it carries invisible power. Digital finance has transformed money into something faster and largely invisible. Online banking, credit cards, and cryptocurrencies operate beyond most people's perception. Algorithms now guide access to loans, credit, and investments. Ordinary citizens see only results, not the hidden systems. Understanding these networks is crucial in the modern era. Global financial networks move trillions invisibly. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and multinational corporations manipulate flows without public scrutiny. Ordinary citizens see only outcomes, while elites consolidate power. Understanding these invisible networks is a form of financial protection. Knowledge is the key to navigating this hidden world. Booms and busts have repeated throughout history, often anticipated or engineered by insiders. Ordinary citizens witness the effects, but rarely understand the causes. Wealth consolidates at the top during each cycle. Studying money's hidden history reveals patterns and safeguards against manipulation. Awareness transforms risk into insight. Interest rates, policies, and digital systems silently guide the financial decisions of millions. Loans, mortgages, and investments are affected by choices most never see. Money is a silent force influencing opportunity and society. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for informed decisions. Knowledge is power in finance. Wealth concentration remains a historical constant. A small elite controls vast resources, influencing markets and policies. Ordinary citizens feel the consequences, without seeing the causes. Money carries hidden power structures developed over centuries. Learning its history illuminates the invisible forces shaping our world. As you earn, spend, or invest, remember, money is never just currency. It carries manipulation, control, and centuries of hidden power. Ordinary people often experience outcomes while elites guide the system. Understanding its history provides foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money, or is it using you? The history of money is also the history of trust. From gold coins to digital ledgers, every system relies on confidence and control. Most people experience only outcomes, unaware of the mechanisms behind them. Understanding the invisible forces of money gives insight into wealth and influence. Knowledge empowers ordinary citizens to act wisely. Banks and financial institutions quietly shape entire economies. Their decisions on credit, loans, and policy affect millions without public awareness. Ordinary citizens trust the system blindly, experiencing only outcomes. Those in control profit while the public carries the risk. Money has always been both a tool and a weapon. Debt has long been a powerful, invisible force. Borrowing drives growth, but excessive obligations create vulnerability. Ordinary people often feel consequences without seeing the underlying mechanisms. Institutions exploit debt strategically to consolidate wealth and influence. Understanding this is essential to navigating finance successfully. Inflation silently redistributes wealth over time. Prices rise, savings lose value, and purchasing power diminishes. The wealthy leverage assets to protect and grow their influence, while ordinary citizens often lose. This hidden process has repeated for centuries. Money is never neutral. It carries embedded power. Digital finance has made money faster, intangible, and largely invisible. Credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies operate beyond daily perception. Algorithms now control access to credit, loans, and investments. Most people see only the results, not the hidden systems. Understanding these networks is crucial for modern financial awareness. Global financial networks operate with remarkable secrecy. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and multinational corporations move trillions invisibly. Ordinary citizens feel only the effects, while elites consolidate power. Money flows according to rules few understand. Knowledge of these systems is a form of protection. Booms and busts have repeated across centuries, often anticipated or engineered by insiders. Ordinary people witness the consequences, but rarely understand the causes. Wealth consolidates at the top with each cycle. Studying money's hidden history reveals these patterns. Awareness provides foresight and safeguards against manipulation. Interest rates, policies, and digital systems silently shape financial decisions for millions. Loans, mortgages, and investments are influenced by choices most never see. Money guides opportunities and society in subtle ways. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for informed financial decisions. Knowledge is power in finance. Wealth concentration remains a historical constant. A small elite controls vast resources, influencing markets, policies, and society. Ordinary citizens often witness outcomes without seeing causes. Money carries embedded power structures shaped over centuries. Learning this history illuminates the invisible forces governing our world. As you earn, spend, or invest, remember, money is never just currency. It carries manipulation, control, and centuries of hidden power. Ordinary citizens often experience outcomes while elites guide the system. Understanding its history provides foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money or is it using you? Money is more than currency. It is a reflection of trust, power, and influence. Each transaction, from coins to digital ledgers, carries centuries of hidden control. Most people see only outcomes, unaware of the forces shaping their lives. Understanding money's history gives insight into wealth and power. Knowledge transforms money from a tool into empowerment. Banks and financial institutions quietly direct economies through credit and policies. Ordinary citizens interact with money without seeing these levers at work. Decisions by a few influence opportunities for millions. Those in power profit while the public carries the risk. Money has always been both a tool and a weapon. Debt has long been an invisible force, shaping societies quietly. Borrowing drives growth, but excessive obligations create chains of vulnerability. Ordinary people feel the effects without understanding the underlying mechanisms. Institutions often exploit debt strategically to consolidate power. Awareness is essential to navigating finance successfully. Inflation silently transfers wealth over time. Prices rise, savings lose value, and purchasing power diminishes. Those with assets leverage this to increase influence, while ordinary citizens often lose. This hidden force has repeated throughout history. Money is more than currency. It carries power. Digital finance has changed money into something fast and largely invisible. Credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies operate beyond perception. Algorithms now control access to loans, credit, and investment opportunities. Ordinary citizens experience outcomes, not systems. Understanding these networks is crucial today. Global financial networks operate with remarkable secrecy. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and corporations move trillions invisibly. Ordinary citizens feel only the effects, while elites consolidate power. Money flows according to rules few understand. Knowledge is the key to navigating this hidden world. Booms and busts have repeated across centuries, often predicted or engineered by insiders. Ordinary people witness consequences, but rarely understand causes. Wealth consolidates at the top during each cycle. Studying history reveals patterns and safeguards against manipulation. Awareness transforms risk into insight. Interest rates, policies, and digital systems silently shape financial decisions for millions. Loans, mortgages, and investments are affected by choices most never see. Money is a silent force influencing opportunity and society. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for informed financial decisions. Knowledge gives power over invisible forces. Wealth concentration remains a historical constant. A small elite controls vast resources, influencing markets, policies, and society. Ordinary citizens experience outcomes without seeing causes. Money carries embedded power structures developed over centuries. Learning its history illuminates the invisible forces shaping our world. As you earn, spend, or invest, remember, money is never just currency. It carries manipulation, control, and centuries of hidden power. Ordinary people often experience outcomes while elites guide the system. Understanding its history provides foresight and protection. Ask yourself, are you using money or is it using you? Money is never just currency. It is a reflection of trust, influence, and control. Every system, from gold coins to digital ledgers, carries centuries of hidden power. Ordinary people experience only the outcomes, not the mechanisms shaping their lives. Understanding this history gives foresight and protection. Knowledge turns money from a trap into empowerment. Banks and institutions quietly shape economies through credit and policy. Most citizens interact with money without seeing these forces. Decisions by a few dictate opportunities and outcomes for millions. Those in power profit while the public bears risk. Money has always been a tool of influence and control. Debt has been a powerful, invisible force across history. Borrowing fuels growth, but excessive obligations create vulnerability. Ordinary people often feel consequences without seeing the mechanisms behind them. Institutions exploit debt strategically to consolidate wealth and influence. Awareness is key to navigating these forces. Inflation quietly redistributes wealth over time. Prices rise, savings lose value, and purchasing power diminishes. The wealthy leverage assets to maintain influence, while ordinary citizens often lose. This hidden process repeats across centuries. Money carries power beyond its visible form. Digital finance has transformed money into something fast and largely invisible. Credit cards, online banking, and cryptocurrencies operate beyond perception. Algorithms guide access to credit, loans, and investments. Most people see only results, not hidden systems. Understanding these networks is crucial today. Global financial networks operate with remarkable secrecy. Offshore accounts, hedge funds, and corporations move trillions invisibly. Ordinary citizens feel only the effects, while elites consolidate power. Money flows according to rules few understand. Knowledge of these networks is a form of protection. Booms and busts have repeated across history, often engineered or anticipated by insiders. Ordinary people witness consequences, but rarely see causes. Wealth consolidates at the top during each cycle. Studying money's hidden history reveals these patterns. Awareness turns risk into insight and opportunity. Interest rates, policies, and digital systems silently guide financial decisions for millions. Loans, mortgages, and investments are affected by choices most never see. Money is a silent force shaping opportunity and society. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for informed decision-making. Knowledge gives power over invisible forces. Wealth concentration remains a constant in history. A small elite controls vast resources, influencing markets, policies, and society. Ordinary citizens experience outcomes without seeing causes. Money carries embedded power structures developed over centuries. Learning this history illuminates the invisible forces shaping our world. So, as you earn, spend, or invest, remember this: money is never just currency. It carries manipulation, control, and centuries of hidden power. Ordinary people often experience outcomes while elites guide the system. Understanding its history provides foresight and protection. Now I ask you, are you using money, or is it using you?